Hello. Here we are at our pre-calc class on Wednesday night, and I promised someone that we would look at number 62, so I'm going to pull that out of the bag first here, and you see I've wrote it down, and I'm looking at it, and I noticed I need to give both of these terms a like denominator. So I multiply this one by secant x minus 1 over itself. And I multiply this one by secant x plus 1 over itself. That probably doesn't show up, but it's secant x plus 1 over itself. That creates the common denominator, secant x minus 1, secant x plus 1. And on the numerator, we have this expression times 1, which I don't need to write, minus this expression, 1 times that, I don't need to write the 1. So now I can distribute the negative sign, so that causes this first term to be negative and the second term. So do you see when we distribute that, the secants are of opposite signs, but the ones have the same sign. So negative 1 is negative 2. And that is once I apply, if this is a minus b, a plus b, we can write that in the a squared minus b squared form. And secant squared x minus 1 is a trig ID, and it is secant squared minus 1 is the same as tangent squared. Tangent squared is in the denominator. We want to finish our problems without a denominator. So let me see if that's showing up. It's getting a little low on the horizon there, so I'll head it back up. And so minus 2 over tangent can be rewritten as the reciprocal function in the numerator. So tangent squared x in the denominator can be written in the numerator with cotangent squared. So that's the final simplification, and that is the answer to that one, number 62. So please take out your number 62 and write this out and correct it if you've tried it and had some problems, or do it from start to finish by following my work, or just confirming that you got it right. All right, so that's 62. All right, we will do maybe 1 or 2 more. I forgot to put the timer on. So let's say that took 5 minutes. So I'll do another 5 before I start part 2. All right, so the next one, let's try, I'll say 68. Hopefully that's helpful to someone. So I won't go the whole way on this. I'll just give you a good push so you can coast all the way home and enjoy the ride. Tangent squared x, cosecant x plus 1. All right. You may be wondering why we actually do all this who-struck when it comes to trig simplification. It's not like someone has a job out there where you sit around simplifying trig functions. But it turns out in calculus and other higher math, these things pop up out of the middle of problems, and sometimes you have to integrate them or differentiate them, which will be familiar words to you if you take calculus. But they aren't, you aren't able to take the derivative or the integral when they're in these certain forms. But you can rearrange them with all of these little tricks, and it turns out that the simplifications or the altered forms are easily differentiated and integrated. So this is sort of just setting the stage for your future math success. So hopefully they're not too irritating. Let's look at number 68, and as I said, I'll set you up from that one. I noticed tangent squared is part of one of the trig IDs, but I look at it and tangent squared plus 1 is cosecant squared. So I could rewrite that as 1 secant squared minus 1, but I don't think that would get me any closer to anything simplifiable. So I think I'll just, since it has a denominator, I'll just multiply by the conjugate, which is the same as the denominator opposite sign on the second term. So, sorry. So this is cosecant plus 1, the conjugate is cosecant x minus 1, and I put that over itself. So it's we're multiplying by 1 and not changing the problem, just the form. So on the bottom, we have an a plus b and an a minus b. So when we combine those together, we get cosecant squared x minus 1, which looks better. Tangent squared, I'm going to leave it like that, because I don't know, I can't initially come up with anything right now that is obviously simplifiable in the numerator. So I'm just going to put that on hold. Cosecant squared x minus 1 is a trig ID. So often when we multiply by the conjugate, that's what happens. So cosecant squared minus 1 is a rearrangement of 1 plus cotangent squared is cosecant squared. So if I want this to look like that, I can move the 1 to the other side, and I see, just with working with this trig ID, that all of this is equal to the cotangent. So cotangent squared, that is. Now what can I do? Well, I see a tangent and a cotangent, so how does that affect one another? Well, let's write this in terms of tangent. Tangent and cotangent are reciprocal functions. So I'm just going to rewrite the cotangent squared as 1 over tangent squared. And now I'll leave you at that. When you divide something by a fraction, you can flip it and multiply by the reciprocal and see what happens there. Alright, so I'll drop you off right there from number 68. So not only for homework tonight do I want you to do 62, which we did in its entirety. Take 68 a couple steps further, see what you can do with that, and then I'll set you also on your way on number 100. So on number 100, it is cosecant, cotangent. Okay. Alright, I'm going to end this part and pick up this problem once more on part 2. So see you in a second.